absolutely no reason for us to be in NATO. We should not be antagonizing Russia by attempting to expand NATO. There's no reason why Russia could not become a friend and ally of the United States. Free and fair trade with Russia and a non-interventionist foreign policy in Europe would do much to endear American interests to Russia. To insist on expanding and empowering NATO only serves to further alienate Russia and drive her to make alliances with Communist China, which is exactly what's going on today. And speaking of China, it's time to recognize China poses a very serious threat to the peace and security of the United States. Our trade practices serve only to allow corporate America to continue to invest in what will surely become an albatross around our well-being. We must discontinue the practice of allowing China to export its cheap products to the United States with no protection for American manufacturing jobs, not to mention the lack of protection and safety to our country. It must stop. And when I become president, free trade will no longer mean a free ride for Communist China. Furthermore, as president, I would take the preservation of our nation's sovereignty and independence extremely seriously. No other candidate at the two major party level is taking our sovereignty and our national independence seriously, in my opinion. This means that the burgeoning North American Union, North American community, call it what you will, is dead on arrival the day I'm sworn in as president. Gone too is the NAFTA superhighway. And for that matter, I would lead the United States out of NAFTA altogether, out of CAFTA altogether, and any prospect for the FTAA is dead as well. As president, I would be the best friend that gun owners and lawful gun dealers, homeschoolers, and veterans ever had in the White House. These are three of the most persecuted, harassed, or overlooked groups of people in our country, but not when I'm president. There's no reason why our veterans should wait for weeks and months and sometimes years to receive the medical care they need. It is disgraceful that we'd ask our brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces to fight our country's battles and then leave them to pretty much fend for themselves when it comes time to receiving adequate health care. I would make taking care of our veterans an extremely high priority if I were president. If I were president, I would also do everything in my power to locate and retrieve any and all MIAs. I personally believe that there are hundreds of our servicemen who are still being held against their will in various parts of the world. I would make finding them and bringing them home of utmost priority if I were president. On the home front, if I were president, I would end corporate welfare. I would also work to disband the Department of Energy, along with the Department of Education and many other federal departments. You remember back in 1994 when Newt Gingrich organized his contract with America. One of the points of his contract was that they would eliminate 5 federal departments, including the Department of Energy and the Department of Education. They won both houses of Congress as a result of that promise, partly so. After taking power, however, Newt Gingrich, Trent Lott, and the other leaders in Congress, the Republican leaders, reneged on their commitment, and not only did they not disband those federal departments, they actually strengthened, augmented them, and sent more funding their way, to the point what we have today with the No Child Left Behind Act and an egregious energy policy emanating from Washington, D.C. There's absolutely no reason that the United States of America should be dependent upon OPEC or any other foreign country for our energy needs. There is enough oil under the soil of Alaska to give us our energy supply for at least 200 years. Not to mention the oil that is under the Dakotas, the oil that is in the Gulf of Mexico, the oil that is under the wells that we're not pumping currently in this, along our southern states. There's absolutely no reason for us to be dependent upon OPEC. We have the energy that we need. There's also no reason that gas should cost more than $1.50 a gallon. And when George Bush became president, that's about what it costs. And now look what has happened. We must begin drilling for the domestic oil that we know exists. We must build more refineries and nuclear power plants. We have not built a refinery of any kind, a nuclear power plant of any kind, in over 35 years. There is no reason why the United States cannot be mostly energy independent. It's time we started putting the people and the interests of the United States ahead of the CEOs and the interests of international corporations. Lastly, if I were president, I would work feverishly to overturn the 16th Amendment, which would repeal the income tax, and no, I would not promote a national sales tax. That would be disastrous. Can you imagine a 30% sales tax and what that would do to the cost of everything? Plus, give politicians a national sales tax to increase, and just imagine what kind of percent that would grow into. I would also work to repeal the death tax, inheritance taxes, and property taxes. The American people are already paying between 30 and 40% of their income to Uncle Sam. It's got to stop. We are bankrupting our country with this incessant and burdensome tax system. In addition, I would work to expunge the Federal Reserve System and to restore the American economy to sound money. These are the basic tenets of the platform that we are taking into the national campaign.